This is our, gosh, I think our fourth week of being together, third or fourth week, I'm not even quite sure. But this is Reading, and we're back together again. We're going to read kind of a cute, funny story this week called An Emergency. Now, when you think of an emergency, what do you think of? Something that's serious, someone's hurt, there's been a natural disaster, who knows what you could think of with an emergency. But this is going to be a little bit different kind of an emergency. Now, I'm going to show you a couple pictures. First of all, what's that? Obviously, that's a skunk. Would you ever think of a skunk as having an emergency or having something that might frighten it? What does a skunk do when it gets frightened? I know you know. Shoots out, sprays out nasty smelling liquid that stays. If it gets onto its the prey or anything that's in its way, it will last for weeks. So animals try to avoid a skunk because they know that they might spray them. And here's another animal. That's a porcupine. Now, looking at all those quills, those are razor sharp quills, and they do have the ability in an emergency, if they're afraid or if they're in danger, they can shoot those out. But they do have one other ability that you might not know of. Did you know that they can roll themselves into a ball to where their head is covered up and all that's sticking out are all of those spines? That's another way that they protect themselves. Well, in this particular story, I know we've had lots of stories about llamas. Well, this one's going to be about llamas as well. And they get in a situation, and I want you to be looking for what they do to protect themselves. It's going to be different than what these two animals do, but it's still kind of an amusing story. This story is an excerpt, a little tiny piece of a book called Llamas on the Loose. And it's a series of books that are about a fictional group of kids that go to school and go to church together. And they live in Peabody. Let's see, it was Peabody, Wisconsin. And each book has something that's happening to the kids, and they go through a situation together. And then the next book will have a different situation. So this is from that particular book. Now, there are some words that you're going to need to know about. I thought I'd just show them to you. Hopefully you can read those today. First of all, you're going to have to know what a grant is. Now, a grant, in this sentence, it says Dr. Lewis received money in the form of a grant to continue his research. Grant is money, generally, that is given to someone to do research that is not to be paid back. It's not a loan, it's something that's given free. Number two, she went to the barn to groom her horse. Now, I know a couple of girls in our room know all about grooming a horse or grooming any kind of animal. It's when you brush them, you give them baths, you take care of their physical outside needs that you and I would do for ourselves, but as an animal, they can't do. The third one, there are baby llamas, and a baby llama is called a cria. C-R-A-C-R-I-A, cria. Or if it's plural, more than one crias. So that's what a baby llama is called. A yearling is another word that's going to pop up. And a yearling animal is an animal that is a year old. That's why the first part, the base word of that word, yearling, is year, because they're a year old. They're not an infant animal and they're not an adult animal, but they're a yearling animal. We've also got halter, and halter is what you slip over the horse's head to be able to lead them through a pasture. It doesn't hurt them, it's kind of like putting a leash on a dog, although this goes into their mouth and over their nose and over their ears so that the rider can control them and tell them what to do. And the last one, let's see, he lifted his chin indignantly after being falsely accused. Indignant is when you think you have been wronged and you go, oh, and you lift your chin. Let's say, your brother goes to your mom and says, Mom, he did that. And mom comes to you, why did you do that, son? And you go, oh, I didn't do that. So indignant has the attitude of, I didn't do that, why are you blaming me? That's going to come up in the story as well. So let's take a look at, in the book, if you will turn in your reader textbook, we're back to the reader now, page, let me look here, page 36, 36, an emergency. Read with me up at the top of the page on 37, at the little head note there. A visit from one of Dad's old friends, Doc Erickson, sends Penny and her brother Jack on an adventure. After Dad agrees to let Penny and Jack work on Doc Erickson's unusual farm of strange animals, strange things begin to happen. Doc Erickson teaches Penny and Jack about the curious animals they raise and teaches them to work hard. Beware of wild animals, Doc Erickson warns. If the dinner gong bong rings and the floodlights flash, be prepared for an emergency. Interesting. Now, one thing I want you to be looking for and start to look for in this first half, there's a half to read today and a half to read tomorrow. There's going to be what's called a plot of the story, and I like to kind of think of it this way. A story is going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And in the beginning and the middle and the end, kind of like the way like a Tootsie Roll or a piece of hard candy are twisted together, you're going to have a beginning, and then there's going to be a problem or a conflict. Then the middle of the story is going to happen, and eventually there's got to be a solution. It's got to be solved. Much like when you were writing your tall tales, you have to make sure that any good story is one that there is a story that's happening, there's a problem, and then eventually the problem gets solved, and then the end of the story. If you don't have a problem and a conflict or a problem and how it gets solved, really doesn't make much of a good story. It's more just a description of something rather than a story. So be looking for that whole story plot as we move along. All right? So today you're going to read pages 37 through, let me see, 37 through 41, and then we'll get back together. All right? All right, I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.